Hello everybody, welcome back to Fifield Junction and welcome to another review. Yeah, as we can see today, we've got another model by Bachmann for us today, but as we can see, this is quite an old one. This particular model is quite old now. As we can see on the box there, it's a Class 166 that we've got for us today, and it's in the Network Southeast livery. Now the Class 166 by Bachmann, again, it is quite old. It's at least 15 years. It's probably more than 15 years old by now. So it is getting on a bit now for its age. But despite its age, it's still not a bad model by any means. It's still, I think it's definitely better than a lot of other models that are still being released today that aren't as old. But yes, it is still getting on a bit. It's definitely not up to the standard of models that we see today. But overall, it's still quite nice. I think it's still just a job. For most people, it should be absolutely fine. Now, it's in the Network Southeast livery, as I've already mentioned. There's only a few different liveries that you can get this in. Bachmann, they've done, obviously, this livery, the Network Southeast. They've also done the First Great Western Dynamic Lines livery. And there's also the First Great Western Link, like the Thames Link one, I think it is, that they've done as well. So only a few different liveries, but hopefully one of them should suit you quite well. I've already looked at the First Great Western one. I did that a couple of years ago, I think it was, around that time anyway. So if you want to go and see the review of that one, then feel free to go and check it out. Or I might put a link below or something if you're interested. But if not, you can just go to my channel or something and find the video there. Now, the reason I've got this model is... Well, there's a few reasons why I got it. Well, so I did want another 166 on the layout because I only have one, as I've already mentioned. And being as that I'm very familiar with them and I think they're quite nice, I thought it'd be good. I thought it would be good to have another one. However, this particular one, it's not going to be staying in this livery, and it's not going to be staying in this three-car formation either. Because this particular one is going to be repainted into GWR green because Bachmann unfortunately cancelled that version. And I'm also going to be modifying it down to the two-car version, so it's going to be converted to a 165. It's not going to be 100% accurate because I know there's a few differences. I think the windows, there's different in the windows, and I think there might be maybe some differences in the underframe as well. But so it's not going to be 100% perfect, but it's going to be modified into a two-car unit. So I thought it'd be quite nice. I've already got a three-car 166, so I thought it'd be nice to have a two-car 165. I thought it'd be add a little bit of variety to the DMU fleet, really. So that's going to be the intention with this model at sometime soon. But obviously, for the purposes of this review, it's going to stay as it is. It's still DC at the moment as well. Being this model is quite old, it's not a DCC ready model. So if you want to convert this model to DCC, it will need hard wiring. You can either use three chips, just one in each unit, or if you wanted to, you could do a chip in the center units and then do some micro connectors between the units to then power the lights and stuff. So a few different ways you could do it. I obviously will be DCCing it as I do the conversion to the two-car units. It will all get done at the same time. But for today's review, we're going to be operating in DC mode. Now the box, it's typical sort of Bachmann packaging for this age. So you've got a nice big sleeve, and then each unit is in its separate box in the middle there. And we've got a nice photo on the front as well. It's quite a nice photo actually. It's a very nice livery actually. I wasn't incredibly keen on this livery to start with when I first saw it. Well, quite a long time ago. But now that I've had this model for a little bit, it's growing on me. I will admit it's growing on me quite a bit. But if we look at it in the box, we can see there. So it's 31-025 is the model code. Oh, it's a 166 turbo 3-car DMU in Network Southeast. Now I'm pretty sure this is the very first release of this DMU that Bachmann did, because the First Great Western one, the packaging is ever so slightly different. For example, this photo isn't on the actual sleeve, it's on its own the info cards that you might be familiar with. And Bachmann did like an info card with DMUs that must have been slightly later than this. And then you also had on the other side of that card, you had the info for the model, and you also had a little diagram of the model as well. And then you had this photo on the front, and then you had the class and everything on there. But on this particular one, which I'm guessing is a slightly older release because the text on the end of the box is different as well. This must be a slightly earlier release. I'm guessing the First Great Western ones, the like the Thameslink one and the Dynamic Lines one. I'm guessing they were released slightly later on, maybe a year or two after this one or something. I could be wrong. But yeah, it's definitely very different, slightly different packaging compared to the other one. But enough rambling on, I think we need to open the model and have a look. So if we take out one of the boxes, we'll have a look at one of the ends first. So if we just open this up, it's not the best packaging in the world. It's the typical polystyrene tray, so it's not great, but again, this model is quite old. And we have got all of the paperwork in this one as well. So that's just the guarantee. We won't bother looking at that. But on this one, this is fairly important. You might be interested in this. So we've got the typical stuff here. So this is for the centre unit. The centre unit is in the bottom box. We'll get that out later. So we can see all of the different parts there. So it's the typical sort of mechanism for the DMUs of this era. So we've got a 5-pole motor. I'm pretty sure it's a 5-pole motor in these. And we've got 2 flywheels. And it drives all of the wheels, and all of the wheels pick up as well. You have got seats inside the centre unit though, so you can still fit passengers if you want to. So yeah, that's not too bad. But there's not much else in there, but it's not too bad. Despite it being a fairly simple mechanism, it's reliable. It's not a bad mechanism at all. But anyway, we'll put that to one side, and then we can get the unit out. It's a little bit tight. Come on. Very gently, push it out. There we go, it's coming. There we go. And here we are. Now, I think you could agree, it's not too bad. Despite how old this model is, it's definitely not too bad. The livery application is spot on. It looks really, really good. All of the colours transfer between each other very, very nicely. But as you can see, the detail is basic. There's not much to it. We've got a little bit of colour there, but there's not much else really. Apart from that, it's all one giant moulded piece. But it's okay, despite how basic it is. It does look very, very good. Everything's very well moulded. It feels nice and sturdy in the hand. It doesn't feel like it's going to fall to pieces. It does feel maybe slightly cheap because how plasticky it is. But despite that, it's not too bad. It's not too bad. I think it is really, really good for the age. These are good models. I think you'll agree. We have got directional lighting there. I wouldn't say it's the most accurate lighting, especially for later versions of this. I do think the lighting could be slightly better, but at least you have got lights. That is a positive thing. At least you have got directional lighting on the model, which is good. The pickups on this model, it's just for these end units, it's just this bogie at the end that picks up. The other bogie at this end does not pick up half the lights. So you will find yourself probably having to clean your track and the wheels on this unit quite regularly to ensure that the power to the lights isn't interrupted. Yeah, even despite how basic it is, I'm still struggling for words, to be honest, because it is such a nice unit. I think it's the livery that's getting to me the most, I think. It's just quite a striking livery. And the Network Southeast livery, there's definitely something about it, I think, that's quite striking. It's just all quite in your face, really, how bright it is. It's not too bad. The wheels probably on this unit probably could use a bit of a clean. I have already serviced the model. Like it has already been opened. The motor unit's all been fully serviced and everything, because this model did come from Hassans, like a lot of the stock that I buy does. It didn't. It probably wasn't in dire need of service, because there was still plenty of lubricant on the motor and all the gears. But the wheels are still a bit dirty. I haven't cleaned the wheels on the dummy units yet. But the motor units should all be ready to go, so that's fine. But whilst the wheels on here aren't actually too bad, they still look quite shiny actually. I'll still give them a clean before we actually run her, just to make sure that we're not going to have any interruptions to the power supply. Yeah, they actually look better than what I thought, so that's not too bad. The weight of the unit isn't too bad either actually. It's not too heavy but not too light either. The pickups I find on these can sometimes add quite a bit of drag. But hopefully they should be fine. And again, with the mechanism that you have in these models, it shouldn't be an issue at all. You have got a nice little dummy BSI coupler on the front there as well. So unfortunately you can't, as it is, you can't couple several of these 166s together. But if you wanted to, you could add your own coupling mechanism onto the front there, so that you could do it. I have seen it done, so it is possible. I don't know how easy it would be to do, but you could do it. It's definitely possible to do. There's no interior lighting, but for a model of this age, you probably wouldn't expect that. But you could fit some. There's plenty of room inside there for you to fit some interior lighting if you wanted to. You could fit your own door locking lights if you wanted to as well. It's not too bad. Overall, it's not too bad. If we go to the other end, we can see we've got a nice exhaust there. We've got some nice detail on the gangway or the corridor, whatever you want to call it. You've got some warning signs as well. You've got the information there about the 166, about the weight and the top speed and everything. They've also got the typical sort of Bachmann DMU coupler. It's like the Roco sort of European style couplers, but they're not too bad couplings. They do sometimes I can find they work quite well. They couple the units really closely together. It looks quite good. Other times they might not be so good, but they're not too bad. They're pretty good couplers, and they are NEM. Yeah, that's an important thing to mention. They are NEM, so if you wanted to, you could take that out and change it for whatever you want. I might do, I might not. I'll have to see. Some of my models I do change the couplers over for something a bit better, but on this model they might be fine actually, so I'll probably leave them, but again we'll see later on. Yeah, overall it's not too bad. It's not a bad model at all. It's definitely not perfect. It's not as good as a lot of other models these days, but as it is, it's not too bad. It's not too bad at all. So if we put that unit to one side, we won't look at the other end, but it's exactly the same. So if we just put the other end to one side, but we will quickly have a look at the motor units just here. Much heavier. So if we just open the box, a little bit tight. Use gravity to help us. Oh, there we are. So again, this fingers in the back, gently push it out. There we are. Yeah, it's not great, brilliant packaging, is it? Oh. Yeah, it's not the best, but I suppose it does the job. But yeah, it's a good job. It's we don't see polystyrene much these days. But yeah, here we are. The motor units, obviously again much heavier. If we look at the bottom there, we can see we've got pickups on that bogie and on the other bogie. So the power supply to the motor should be very reliable. Again, it's just the weight of these models I think is the biggest thing. Because the chassis on these DMUs, this entire section here is fully solid metal. That's a completely solid metal block, and then you've just got the plastic underframe detail on the outside. Again, the livery application is really good. It's really nicely applied. I know you can see some of the wires inside there. That's just where I temporarily redid my well, I didn't need to redo the wiring inside. It's just when I was doing the servicing, a couple of the wires might have been a bit too rough. A couple of the wires, well, both pickup wires pinged off this bogie here, but they weren't soldered on incredibly well anyway. So when I serviced this bogie, the worm gear was quite a bit tight on this bogie as well. So when I was stripping it down and surfacing it, I ended up just wiring, instead of threading the wires back through underneath the seating, out of the way where they're not visible, I just wire them straight over to the circuit board over here temporarily. Because obviously once I convert this, because I'm going to be converting this unit to DCC anyway, so it doesn't matter if the wiring for DC is scruffy at the moment, as long as it works for the moment, that's fine. Obviously, if you were to get this model, you won't see the wiring inside. You just see probably just see the motor and everything. But if we can ignore that for the moment. It's not too bad. Again, everything's really nicely molded. The livery application is spot on. The detail, what there is of it, is really nice. Again, it is basic, but it's again very well molded. It looks really good. Overall, there's no major complaints with it, to be honest. Despite how old this model is, it's not bad. It's really good. It would definitely put a lot of other models to shame, I think, in my opinion. I think it's that good. It really, I think that's how good I think it is. I think it really would put other models these days, and that maybe could even be more expensive. I really think it would put those to shame. I really think it's that good. It is such a nice model. I do really like it I just like it that much. One thing I have noticed there actually is the cam rail strap. It doesn't go along the entire length of the model. It's only on the cab ends. That's something I didn't notice actually. Is it the same on the end units? Yes, it is. That's quite strange. I wonder why they did that. That's quite a strange thing. I thought the cam rail stripe would have to go along the entire length of the model of the coach, but it's just on the ends, that's quite strange. I don't know if that's an error of when Bachmann decorated this model, or if that's how maybe that's how they were in real life. That's quite strange, but well, you learn something new every day. But again, yeah, the detail on the ends, it's just as good. You've got the exhaust again, you've got the info about the model, well, the unit, more warning signs. You've got the little door as well, which looks quite good. That looks quite good. Yeah, overall, it's great. It's a really, really nice model. So I think what we need to do now is put her on the track and see how she runs. Now again, we are going to be operating on DC, so it is going to be the Hormy train set controller that we're going to be using again. So the performance is going to be a bit noisy, maybe not as good as it can be. But I will take into consideration that the controller that I'm using isn't great. And I'll also take into consideration my experience from running my other 166, which is obviously DCC sound. So I know how these models run on DCC. So I'll take that into consideration as well. But anyway, let's head up to the layout, get on the track and see how she runs. Okay, so here we are. Again, we're at a different section of the layout today. I thought it'd be nice for us to actually to be able to put the model onto the track on the inner loop without having a 158 taking up half the camera. I know there's still a 158 here, but at least it's a bit more open over here, and the lights should be a bit better as well. So if we just grab the motor unit, let's put it on here. Ooh, there we are. That's pushing it along a little bit. So if we just give it a bit of a wiggle, that's not too bad. And the other way. Yeah, overall not too bad. It does. I know it does sound a little bit grindy, maybe a bit groggy, and not absolutely 100%. But again, it is a fairly old model. It could just need a bit more running, because I'm not sure how long it had been when I first got it. I'm not sure how long it had been since the model had actually run. I think it might not have been too long, because the model is running quite nicely. When I first got it, there was still plenty of oil on all of the gears, so I don't think it had been boxed up for too long. But it's still running quite well. See how slow we can get it to go. That's about as slow as I can get it to go, I think. Yeah, overall, that's not too bad actually. That's really, really good. For the age, and considering this is only running on a Hormy train set controller as well, that's not too bad. And there's quite a lot of weight for that motor to move. It's obviously got the two flywheels, and it's also got the weight of the entire unit, which again is very, very heavy. So I'd say, for considering how old this model is and the controller that I'm running it on, that's really, really good. But anyway, we need to get the end units on as well. So if I just do one at the front here and couple that up, there we are, and do the other one. Ooh. Right, okay, I think we're on. And I've just noticed, I think this model's named actually. Oh, no, it's not. I think it's just the turbo branding. I thought it was named for a second. I got quite excited, but no, it's not. But if we just get it to go, get it in shot fully. There we are. I'll come out this way a bit actually, only a little bit. There we go. And yeah, overall it looks really good actually, and the units are coupled together quite closely as well, so that's quite good. I know that it looked like the lights were flickering there, but trust me, they weren't. The lights were perfectly stable. Again, I think it's just the way the camera picks them up. So I will always mention if the lights are flickering or not, because I don't want to be giving anyone false information. That would be too good. But yeah, the lights, I promise, are stable. They are working fine. I have tested all of the lighting as well. All of the lights on the model work fine, so we shouldn't have any issues. But anyway, I think we need to get her running and see what she's like. Well, I think you'll agree that she's running rather well. I suppose she is quite noisy. I think that's the main downside to this model. Is that the motors are quite noisy. I know they'd probably be quieter on a better quality DC controller. and on DCC they are almost silent. But, well, yeah, even on DCC, I'd say on DCC the performance still isn't 100%. It's still a little bit noisy. But overall, the performance is good. Really, really good in my opinion. I say apart from the noise, the performance is near enough there, I think. The detail is okay. It definitely could be better. Delivery application, spot on. So there's nothing really wrong with it. There's no blemishes. It's all very crisply applied. So I'd say delivery application, there's nothing really wrong with it. So overall, in conclusion, I'd say this is one fantastic model. The price, very, very reasonable. So I'm not sure what the RRP of these was, because obviously they are quite old. But for the price I paid, I paid about, I think it was £135 for this. The price is very, very reasonable. For what you get, it's really, really good. If you want one of these, definitely get one, because you'll be very, very impressed, I think. It will definitely be a very, very worthwhile purchase. If you want the model DCC fitting and you don't know how to do it yourself, then I can do it for you. I'd say you've got my first Great Western one there. It's got a bit of a towel on top of it at the moment. That's DCC fitted, well, with sound. So this one will be next. Okay, and now let's have some ratings for the very nice Bachmann Network Southeast Class 166. So overall, the detail, I've given it 8 out of 10. Overall, the detail is really, really good, especially for the model's age. It's not too bad. The delivery is applied really well. All of the parts are moulded really nicely. There's no blemishes. I'd say the only downside really is how there's not a lot of painted detail on the model, especially with the underframe. The underframe detail is rather basic. But apart from that, the detail overall is really, really good. Again, it's all moulded really well, so overall there's no major complaints with it, I think. The performance, I've given 9 out of 10. I'd say the performance is probably one of the best aspects of this model. The model runs really well, it's really smooth, and the lights work really, really well. It's, again, I can't fault it really. I'd say the only downside, the only reason I think it doesn't get 10 out of 10 is because of how noisy it is. I know noise is something that can be quite hard to avoid, and again, I know this model is quite old, so it's probably not going to be the best performer. But I'd say that's apart from that, the performance is really, really good. Again, if it was quieter, it would definitely be 10 out of 10. And I know I have some DCC, it definitely is quieter, and most models do run quieter on DCC. And indeed, my first Great Western one is very, very quiet on DCC, but it's still not 100% silent. So I know that is probably quite a silly thing to mark it down for, but I do know of models like this that are much quieter than this and do run slightly better. But again, overall, no major complaints with the performance. Overall, a really good performer. The quality, again, I've given 9 out of 10. The quality is amazing. Again, you've got the crisp application of the livery. It's really, really well applied. There's no blemishes, as I've already mentioned. It feels really sturdy in the hands. It doesn't feel like it's going to fall to pieces. Again, I'd say the only reason I marked it down is the plastic chassis of the dummy units. They do feel quite cheap. The bogie frames do feel, again, a little bit cheap. I say that's the only downside really. Is how delicate and cheap the plastic chassis feel of the dummy units. But again, apart from that, really, really good. The value for money then, it's got to be 10 out of 10. The value for money here is just astounding. You're getting a really nice 3-card DMU. Again, really good livery application, a really good mechanism. You've got lights as well. It's got the full package really. Really nothing wrong with the value for money here. Again, I paid £135 for mine. You probably won't get them much cheaper than that, I think. Again, well, you could get one cheaper, but I reckon you'll be quite lucky. but if you get one for around the price I pay, even if you pay slightly more, overall there's nothing wrong with the value for money. It's really, really good. I just really don't know what else to say, really. It's just great. So overall, that's a overall total of 9 out of 10. Overall, a really, really good model. If you want one, you've just got to get one, because they are really, really fantastic. I just can't fault it.